It's the shake off the dust of your sandals and walk. You know, Jesus said, so I'm going to just metaphysically really quick take that verse, those verses, and what that means is that it's not about, oh, are you worthy of my conversation? Are you worthy of me coming in your house? It is, are we of like mind? Okay? Are we of like mind? And for me to try and force you into my mind is futile. Jesus did the same thing. He went and preached, but he didn't hang around if they weren't hearing them. He said, those that have ears will hear, right? So there was no forcing anything. I want to tell you about, I want to tell you about my sister. I had a conversation with her yesterday. Many of you know I have this off and on relationship with my sister, but lately it's been pretty much on because we made a promise not to talk about religion or politics. We get along great. She's been honoring that. But yesterday she calls me. Now she lives in Clearwater, Florida, and she calls me because she's upset because the church that she goes to, which I believe is the Church of the Nazarene, I think is where she's going. And so they have a very large church, and they have a food pantry, et cetera, et cetera. Hurricane Irma, right, for Florida. And so their church opened their doors to become a shelter. Well, there is a woman who is a congregant of the church, but would be considered not deemed worthy because she lives in a trailer, not a mobile home park, but a trailer. She has 2 dogs. She has no money. She's very, very destitute. She does volunteer at the food pantry every week to help the needy, even though she's one of the needy. She called the church and said, I'm scared. She has no family, and I'm scared. I need to know if I can come, but I have to bring my 2 dogs because they mean everything to me. And she was told they have no room for her because of her dogs. Okay. I don't like but, and later my sister finds out, because she works in the food pantry with this woman, so she finds out that there were others in the shelter that night with animals. So the plot thickens. And my sister needs to tell me the plot and all the story. And I'm glad because she's trying to work it out because she doesn't go on Facebook and start blasting anybody. I really commended her for this because sometimes that is her way. And she didn't. And the minister came to visit with her, and she did not get into a heated conversation with him, but he apparently got rather heated with her because she kept asking him to go to the truth, and it wasn't happening. So now she's suffering because she loves her church, she loves her community, but she can't sit in there listening to this person who she feels has not been authentic. But think about this. Think about this in your own life. It might not be with the church. It might be not with the minister, or maybe it is. But I'm just saying, think about how this type of situation happens in your own life and what we do. We go out in the parking lot and talk to people. Yeah. We go in the grocery store and meet somebody, and we need to tell them about it. You won't believe what that minister did. They turned away my friend Beulah and then hit their hearts with, she had 2 dogs. That really hit their hearts. And I'm going to put that on Facebook because all my animal rights activists will chime in, and I'll have an army. Anybody play the game Risk? Do you remember that? What was Risk all about? My sister loved Risk when we were kids. I didn't. I wasn't real crazy about it, even though there was an error when I was little that I had army men and my best friend had his army men and we fought each other. But as I grew up, Risk just didn't hit for me. Risk is about you got to go get these armies together and then you take over countries. Oh boy, does that sound like historical, how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago that we've been playing Risk. What I was so proud of is that my sister, I said that to her. I said, Sharon, I'm so proud of you. You're not doing the Risk game. She goes, oh, no, I can't. This is not right. And instead of her being, I was reading this out of the Unity 5 Principles book. Instead of her going into activism, and activism has a slippery slope of going, I am right and you are wrong. Okay? She went into action. There's a big difference. And she did not slam anybody. And my advice to her was, I said, stay involved in the church, and right now, if you can't sit there and realize that the minister is not up here, he's human, and we all have egos, and maybe he will come to that right mind. Oh, I got so many stories I want to tell you about today, because I've changed thanks to Mary Morrissey, who taught me 2 weeks ago in person when I had lunch with her. She said, name your title, and then just step back and ask God, the universe, to give you plenty of examples to base your talk on. I have so many examples this week that I don't know which one to give you. Sunday morning got an earful. Sunday morning class got an earful of an animated representation of what happens in Kathy's life when she asks the universe to support a message. But I'm going to try to summarize this. So, walking our talk. So, here's what shows up for me. I'm out there getting a sign off of Galbraith Road, and in comes a car, and it is somebody I know who came here, 7, 8 years ago, and very involved back then, right? And this person has this need to just tell me how their life is just very animated about it. She's very animated about it. Okay? She has forgotten. She thinks it, but she's not living it. She thinks and knows the principles. I know she knows the principles, but she has forgotten how to live them. Okay? Now, within 24 hours, I meet another congregant who's been in multiple accidents in the last, actually, I think maybe 5 weeks, 2 weeks, it could even be 2 weeks. Multiple accidents with the same car. Just got the car repaired, bam, smashed again. Okay? This person doesn't go, blah, 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 blah. This person goes, yep, that's what happened. I don't know what I'm going to do, but, hey, nobody was hurt. This person's living the truth that they know. Then here comes another one, phone call. I don't usually answer my phone on Fridays and Saturdays. I let it go to voicemail, and then I decipher if it's a need to respond right away. For some reason, I look at it, I don't recognize the number, so usually that's a clue, don't pick it up. But in this case, I went with my gut, and it said, pick it up. I pick it up, and this person is very, very afraid. I don't have a clue who this person is. But they are calling me Reverend Kathy, and I've come to your church once or twice, and this person is just filled with fear. And so my job, I feel, was to help them to remember who they are. Now, I can't do that if I don't know it, and I'm not prayed up so that I can live it and reflect back. The person who was in the car, literally, I was hanging half in her car to remind her, I know who you are. I know who you are. And that's why the meditation, this song was just so alignment to it of we've got to remember who we are. It is so important. Jesus remembered who everybody was, but he didn't try and drag them all with him. He basically knew the truth, and then moved on. He knew the truth. You know, we went sailing yesterday, and Michael's teaching me to do more of the sailing now. And so I've got the rudder, and we're in, if anybody's sailing, variable winds. Variable winds mean you think they're coming from the east, and then all of a sudden they start coming from the west. So you've got your sail set, okay, and you've got this rudder, which actually steers the boat, okay. Now, I've got the rudder, and it's very challenging with the winds coming at us. And this is so indicative to life. Sailing is so indicative to this picture right here of troubled waters. And when you've got variable winds, you have to keep adjusting the sails in order to not keel over. And if the winds get so strong, then you either drop your sail or you let go of the rudder, and the boat will just right itself. But how often, and I was watching myself, I wanted to fight against the wind, and it wasn't doing anything but ripping my shoulder out. And isn't it indicative to life of when we keep learning to adjust our sails, have a spiritual understanding, knowing that God stands under all things, and I'm going over time, and I'm sorry, but I'm very adamant about this to you, is that it doesn't do any good for me to be up here week after week after week after week and saying this to you, and then you leave here feeling entertained, but you don't do life any different. Then I'm nothing but a clanging cymbal. And that's not what I want to be. I made a commitment 20 years ago. 20 years? No. I was ordained in 2000, 17 years ago. And I've been here, October 4th will be 8 years as your spiritual leader. And I didn't come here to entertain. I went through a lot of work and a lot of study so that I can help raise the consciousness of this planet. And it's not about me. It is about I want to teach you so that you will go out in the world and show it to others, and they will want to follow by your example. I know I need to end on that note. So you're going to be hearing more and more about principle, and you're going to be hearing more and more about walking your truth that you know. You can have all this great information, but it means nothing unless you're out in the world living it. And it's our job to practice to be peaceful people, not people with an agenda, not people with them versus us, but peaceful, loving people. And that's my charge to you for this week. So I say namaste. The Christ presence in me. Truly sees and honors the Christ presence in each and every one of you. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you.